Right, hold on a second. How you clicker now? You're working?
It is.
Perfect. I can hear you. That's a microphone. If other kids come in to join me, that's your talking stick. Other than that, you're good. You're good?
All right,
Cool.
I just gotta get in front of the camera.
I'll say hi.
Okay.
Hey guys, glad you're hanging out. Don't forget, if you ever miss a session, they're all on the learning videos. If you go to kwclmhub.com, there's a learning video panel. You click into that. All of the sessions from our last round are recorded. So there's 40 hours of Ignite. So if you get snowed in and you have a box of wine and you want to watch a whole bunch of Ignite, you can do that. Amanda Martin's here today. She's going to take you through Connect with Your Market. And if you got questions, just come off mute and ask away. Okay? Awesome.
Nice job.
Thanks, Tim.
And when you're done, just them off.
Okay.
Or you can, well, I'm gonna be going into something at 11 o'clock, so I can just come in and clean it up. Don't worry about it. Just walk away.
Okay,
It's fine.
that sounds good. Hi, guys. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the camera. I haven't taught in this platform before, so just trying to figure it out. But welcome. I'm Amanda Martin. I don't know that have met many of you, but I've been with Keller Williams for 7 years now, and have been on teams, individual, kind of done the whole thing. So I hope I can bring you guys a good perspective to this chapter. Real quick, could I just find out like how long all of you have been in real estate so I know my audience and who I'm chatting with? If anyone wants to chime in.
Brian Harrington, 3 years.
Since November.
Ah, brand new.
I've been doing this since September.
Okay.
I've been in it for a year.
Licensed 3 years, only selling one.
All right. I think that's everyone. All right, so fairly kind of a mix, but fairly new. So let's get started. And as I'm talking, if you have questions, just speak out loud. You don't have to like raise your hand. Don't worry about interrupting me. I want to make sure everything I cover is understood well. So today's topic is connecting with your market, which is kind of the core of what we do, right? Like connect with people in order to sell them houses. So if you don't have the Ignite workbook, there is a QR code here where you can download it. There are a couple, I have it printed right here, but there are a couple of activities to go along with this chapter if you guys want to do them while I'm talking or after the fact. So what we'll go over today is knowing your market, building your expertise in your market, utilizing our resources, what are our ahas and a recap, and some daily success habits that will help you connect with your market. So here's the truth. If it's been done in another market, it can be done in your market. Once it has been done, no matter where, it's just a matter of finding out how that can be possible in your world. And that's from Gary Keller and the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So knowing your market, so knowing and connecting with your market is all about research and preparation. So 3 types of real estate markets. There's a buyer's market, which is, this says more than 7 months of inventory. I've heard it to be more than 6 months of inventory. I was also actually on a training yesterday where someone's perspective is that it's more than 4 months of inventory. So it kind of varies, but we'll go with this model. So buyer's market is more than 7 months of inventory. Balanced is 5 to 7 months of inventory. And a seller's market is less than 5 months of inventory. So for as long as I can remember, at least more than 7 years, we've pretty much been in a seller's market, meaning that it's more advantageous for the sellers. They have the upper hand, and the buyers are competing. So I pulled some data. I wish I had my computer because there's some really good data that I want to show you, and I probably can't get to it on screen, but the New Hampshire Association of Realtors, on their website, they have so much data for us. You'll find it on their homepage, but then there's also a section called InfoSparks, I believe. And I pulled this New Hampshire like monthly indicator report, and it goes over. Does someone have a question? Or if you could mute. So this New Hampshire monthly indicator comes out every month for its name, and it goes over the trends in New Hampshire. So from this report, I pulled what actually, I'm gonna go back. What our pretty much how much inventory we have, what our absorption rate is. If you don't know what absorption rate is, that is how we find out if we're in a buyer's market, balanced, or seller's market. And what it is the number of homes sold over a period of time divided by the active number of homes. So how long would it take to sell the amount of active homes we have on the market based off of how our market's been performing over, let's just say, the past 6 months. So from that report, I pulled in 2024, our average amount of inventory was 1.9 months. So that means if no other houses came on the market, it would take about 2 months to sell all of our inventory. A couple years ago, we were at a point where inventory was, 0.3 of a month. It was so scarce, it wasn't even at 1 month. 2023, we were at 1.5 months on average for all of New Hampshire. In 2022, we were at 1.4 months. So our inventory is growing, which is actually very nice to see, and it's creating a little bit of more balance in our market, but still, that's a very strong seller's market, right? This says less than 5 months of inventory, and we're at about 2 months of inventory. So we have a ways to go to even get to a balanced market, never mind fully switching to a buyer's market. Any questions on that? Jen, I don't know if she still does it, but Jen Vashon used to teach an absorption rate class. If it's offered, I suggest taking it so that you could do this yourself, because I'm pulling data from all of New Hampshire, but obviously by county, not necessarily by town. I feel like our towns are so small that it's hard to actually get an absorption rate. But by county or region, you can also pull numbers to see how things are selling and how things are moving. But the overall New Hampshire numbers are a good place to start, especially if you don't have a lot of time or you just want to start looking at them. This report is awesome.
And the KW Hub, there's a recording of Jen teaching absorption, so.
Oh, thank you. Yes, look at that. That's amazing. I also yesterday, the New Hampshire Board of Realtors hosted a free class with Jennifer Frost for pricing strategy, and she went over a lot about the data and where to find it and what it means, and went really in depth with it. It was free, and it was 3 CE credits, but if they offer it again, I highly suggest it. It was nice to hear someone else's perspective on it when looking at the data too. So inventory is the number of properties for sale within a market. So these are the types of questions that you should be asking yourself when you're looking at inventory, when you're analyzing the market. So what is the inventory of your market, right? Like if you have a buyer whose budget is $500,000 for, and they want a 3-bedroom single family home, how many of those are on the market in a specific town or in the specific few towns that they're looking for? Also, if you have a seller, it's, and they're going to be listing their house for that price, what does their competition look like? This is really key, because I say that we're in a strong seller's market, but I'll tell you that just as of this past November, I was in a variety of situations with my buyers. So one buyer in one town was in a bidding war with 7 other offers that we ended up winning. And then a week later in another town, both Seacoast, I had someone that ended up getting a home for $60,000 under asking price. And it all came down to pretty much what was the inventory of those towns and where did this house fall within the average price point of the town. So in one town, the person that got it under was a very high price point for that town. The person who was in a bidding war, it was a very kind of average and competitive price point. So knowing the inventory, you can get really micro with it when you're helping your buyers and sellers determine it. And it's very helpful, especially in our shifting market, to understand what's happening. Let's see. So for a few of these questions, I just looked at this New Hampshire monthly indicator report, and I'll throw some data at you. So the average number of days a home stays on the market for 2024 was 28 days. That is probably a little bit skewed by new construction. I think that I have seen a well-priced home that doesn't need a lot of work, does not stay on the market for 28 days. We're still at usually less than a week, but overpriced homes will sit and they will stay longer. So that number is important to know, and it's important to watch, right? Like if we say this year trending like, oh, the average house is staying at, 32 days on market, or are they coming off market 26 days? It just shows you how the market is moving, which is essential to know as you're helping your buyer, because pretty much by the time you're looking at this data, it's already old, right? It's reported from last month and things are already shifting. So being able to kind of look at the past data and what's currently happening is very important. The next thing you want to ask yourself is, what is the average price of a home in your market? Average price a home in your market sells for. So again, this varies widely by town, but in New Hampshire for 2024, it was $514,000. And then last question, based off the inventory, what type of real estate market are you in? Again, we went over that. We're in a seller's market, but it can be very town specific, very, very region specific as to how strong of a seller's market it is. I know that was kind of a lot of information. Do you have questions so far, or anything that you guys are seeing that you wanted to comment on when it comes to inventory or anything like that? No. Okay, so a few good resources, and I know that I mentioned the New Hampshire Realtors website that has InfoSparks. They have a whole dashboard that you can play with numbers and figure out what's going on in the market. We also have our MLS, which has a reporting function, and you can pull reports from the MLS. There's also a tool called RPR, which I think is free with our NAR membership. And I love that tool because it has these really almost pretty graphics that are easy for buyers and sellers to see. You can look up per town, and it'll have a sliding scale of, is this a buyer's market or is it a seller's market, and where this town fits within that scale. It also will show things like average price points, average days on market, what the community is made up for in terms of household income, unemployment rates. RPR is wonderful. If you haven't logged into it, I definitely suggest it. And there's tons of trainings that they provide themselves. Same goes for the, Nearin, and they'll have their trainings as well. But those are the 3 places that I usually look at data for. All right, so where are we? Okay, so knowing your market, we went through the type of market, knowing your inventory. The next important thing is interest rates and lender regulations. So make contacts with lenders in your area so you can stay up to date on your market and answer any questions your clients may have about the process. So if you have not found your good lender partners, this is kind of a really nice time of year to do it. I know I have tons of lenders reaching out to me wanting to get coffee and just connect. And I suggest just go on every coffee appointment you're asked for. And if you're not being asked for any, then reach out to lenders you have heard about and get to know them. I always offer my clients 3 different lender options. One of which is more of a broker. So they can offer different programs and be a little bit more flexible and competitive. The second is more of a larger lender that keeps their loans in-house. And the third, I always offer a regional bank because some of our banks, like I know Kennebug Savings has a really great construction loan program, and they can just be a little bit more flexible on certain types of properties. So I wouldn't just find your one lender and have them always be your go-to, because not every lender can finance every house. And it's really important to have kind of a group of people where you can pivot if you need to, if you have a buyer that's looking for something that's a little bit unconventional, or maybe their finances are unconventional. And the reason I say network is there are so many lenders, and I think of them almost like agents. I know as an agent, I am not for every home buyer, home seller, right? We all have our different personalities and we all have our different working styles. Find your lenders that you work well with, that speak your same language, that you can partner well with and are a really good support system, because they're going to help tremendously with your clients. If you guys are on the same page, I mean, some of my lenders help me get creative with my offers and come up with different approaches to getting offers accepted or to overcome obstacles. So that's really, really key to have those relationships. Does everyone have a go-to lender? Do you guys have questions about this section at all?
So we put together, my sister and I, like a sheet. So every
Mhm.
buyer's presentation, it's in the folder. That's a sheet of, like you say, multiple different people. I think there's 6 of them. And it's nice is, as we're going through, depending on what their thoughts are, what they're talking about needs, point, okay, this person's great for this, like you said, like if it's if it's a broker, awesome. If it's land, if it's a new construction, if it's a mobile, and just having all those different people and stay in touch with them. So it makes your life, as Amanda said, so much easier, going through the process if you trust the person instead of, Rocket Mortgage, you never know what you're gonna get, so.
And it helps, you know, it helps your buyer when they're submitting an offer if a listing agent sees a local lender, because they have more trust in them. They've probably worked with them before and they know their abilities. So it's super important. And I think actually 6 is probably even better than 3, because my list of 3 doesn't include like mobile home lenders or land lenders. I do have those. I do less work with them, but I think when I first started, I didn't necessarily realize the value in that, because I didn't understand the nuances and intricacies of financing. I thought you just got it pre-approved and all lenders could do everything, which I know is very naive. But I had to learn and go through the motions to really figure out that, oh, I need a variety of lenders. I can't just have my go-to person. And if you guys want any recommendations of, I'm happy to share who I work with. If you guys email me after and you want to reach out to them for coffee and learn and see if they're a good fit for you personality wise, you're more than welcome to email me for that. All right. Where are we? Okay. Economic factors. And this is also a big one. I mean, the economy has been a big topic the last couple years, just of, I guess, pretty much it's always a big topic. But with our high inflation and the eyes on the Feds and interest rates, I feel like they're especially strong the past couple years. You'll notice that what happens in the Northeast tends to be a little bit different than what happens among the whole country. So sometimes news headlines might throw you off a bit. So it's important to know what's actually happening in New Hampshire or in Maine, Massachusetts, wherever you guys are licensed. And knowing what the unemployment rates are, the average incomes and things like that. So for example, last year, the average New Hampshire unemployment rate was like 2.2, when nationally it was 4.3, right? So our economy here specifically is stronger than what we're seeing in other parts of the country. This is also when I reference RPR, it has a lot of good economic data. And I've also come across a podcast that I love. Because for me, if someone just tells me, oh, unemployment's 2.2, I'm like, okay, that sounds low. I know that's a good number, but what does it mean and how do I apply it to my market? There's a podcast called Knowledge Brokers. And I have really enjoyed listening to them because they talk about the economic factors of real estate. They talk about real estate trends nationally, but the hosts, one is Lisa Chianti, and she is the broker owner of Chianti Real Estate in Massachusetts. One of them is Tom Toole, who is a broker owner in Pennsylvania, and the other, I can't remember his name, but he's in Connecticut. So while that's not very New Hampshire specific, they're still talking about the housing market as a whole nationally, but them having a northeast east perspective is helpful, and it has helped me understand what does this all mean and how does it impact me and how are things moving. Does anyone else have any good either podcasts or websites or anything they look at to help them understand what's happening with the economics in New Hampshire, or I guess across the US? No? Okay. Check out RPR and check out Knowledge Brokers. It'll really help you with that. But so knowing unemployment rate, what's the growth rate of your community? Has the government made any changes to rules and regulations that might affect the housing market? I think you can look at that on a macro and a micro level. I know there are a lot of towns that are making different zoning regulations allowing for certain types of properties, like properties with in-laws being able to be like the regulations around them being loosened up. So people are more likely able to build an in-law apartment. You can also look at things, economic factors, like are there any big businesses that are going to be doing a lot of hiring? And are we expecting an influx of people coming? Like is Lonza doing a lot of hiring, or Sig Sauer? And is that going to make our market stronger? Also, we have a lot of military bases around here as well. So looking at that, I think we get into that actually a little bit later in these slides. But economic factors are huge to determine where the market is going and how it's moving. Because like I said before, by the time you look at last month's data or last year's data, it's already old. So combining that with what's currently happening is really important. Other important market factors to investigate. So this is kind of what I was starting to go into. But knowing nearby shops and restaurants, nearby health facilities, neighborhood attractions. And I think you can take an approach to this slide a couple of different ways. One is knowing what's around for your specific clientele. So if you work with first-time home buyers, you might want to know the best coffee shops, the best breweries, what's around them at the town they're looking at that's going to be for their lifestyle. If you're, helping someone downsize and they're in their late 70s, you might want to focus on, where the health facilities are, or not to say they won't like the breweries as well, but just kind of knowing who your customer is and knowing what market they're looking in and what's going to appeal most to them, as well as neighborhood attractions. I think the second way you can look at this is when I look at nearby shops and restaurants. So have you guys heard of the Starbucks effect? Anyone? So Starbucks has obviously a ton of researchers, economists, and when they target where they're going to put a new shop, historically, that's an area that tends to see some pretty big growth. So for example, one just went into Raymond, New Hampshire. I just bought an investment property in Raymond, New Hampshire a year before. So I was like, great. To me, that means that was a good decision. Big companies are seeing it and big companies are investing in those markets. I also noticed in Seabrook, they're shifting what their stores are there. So they just opened a J. Crew and a Barnes and Noble, and I saw an article that a Chick-fil-A might be going where the Outback was. So paying attention to what is going in these towns, not only because of speaking with buyers and sellers and the desirability of the towns, but I think it also shows you like where are these big companies investing, because they don't just on a whim start to invest somewhere, right? They do a lot of research and they make sure it's a good move for them financially. So anyone have anything to add to this slide? No, we're going to be done really quick. We'll probably be only an hour and not 2 hours. All right, so kind of to recap, knowing your market, I'm just going to go over those 5 points again. So one is the type of market, knowing buyer, seller, balanced market. 2 is inventory. 3 is your interest rates and lenders. Also, I didn't mention this in the lender section, but a lot of lenders will send out either a daily or weekly email, and they'll tell you what the trends are for mortgage rates, which is really helpful because it's just right in your inbox and you don't have to research it. Economic factors are important, and other market factors like neighborhood numbers. All right, building your expertise and become the real estate expert of choice. So the 4 components of this: learn the market, learn your clientele, listen to individuals, and keep the headlines in context. So learn the market, pretty much learn your language of real estate, and know your business. Notice changes over time in your personal business. So as agents, we're not all the same. We're not all going to pick up on the same factors, which I think is what makes us unique and special, right? Like I said, I'm not for every buyer, I'm not for every seller, but knowing the data that I'm inspired about, I feel like my clients are going to be inspired about. That's really my language of real estate. And being able to effectively communicate that. I think there's one thing for just saying like, oh, the inventory is 1.9 months of inventory, but what does that mean and how has that changed? And being able to apply it to how it affects your buyer is really important. And knowing your business. So how have things changed over time? If you're new and your business hasn't changed over time because it's just beginning, you don't have to stop this at just your business. You can be asking other agents. There's so many people in our office that have been in the business for so many years, and just everyone's willing to help. So asking like, what are you noticing? What are your changes? What's changing? How many offers are your listings usually getting? And trying to get that kind of boots on the ground data from your peers is also important. All right. Learning your clientele. So who are the buyers? Who are the sellers? So who are the buyers? I interpret this in 2 ways. One, who is the buyer that you're working with? What motivates them? What's going to interest them most? And what's going to impact them most? But also, if you have a listing, who's the buyer for that property? Now, we never fully know who it is, but it's good to think of when you're marketing, like who it might be, who are you speaking to, what's going to be important to them. Same with the sellers. Who are your sellers? One, for you to know who you're working with. Ask them lots of questions. Ask how they like to be communicated with. Ask what's important to them. I love sharing data. Some sellers don't care about the data and they don't want all of the information. So learning who they are and how to communicate with them is really important. But also from a buy side perspective, if you have a buyer, learning the sellers, right? They're not your clientele, but that's helping your clientele who the seller is. Why are they moving? What's motivating them? And that's going to help you get to a better deal for everyone. Does the market benefit your clients? So we spoke about sellers market, and right now the market is pretty much benefiting sellers. It can benefit buyers in a certain point right now. People who are willing to take on fixer-uppers. You can find pockets of the market where buyers are benefited at the moment. And does the market put your clients at risk? I would say the past couple years, our market has put our buyers at a ton of risk. You've probably heard of tons of waived inspections, and that's a big risk to take on for any buyer, and we should not be doing it. And quite frankly, it can put our sellers at risk too. Is there anything that you guys want to add to learning your clientele or ask me? Like, are you guys all familiar with kind of what types of questions to ask people, how to find their motivation and all of that?
Can you
Not
give a
at
couple
all.
extra examples of questions to ask sellers, just to kind of get to know them better and buyers?
Yeah. So I would say you're always coming from always question. I think in the beginning of my career, I like to be like, oh, I'm the expert. I know this, I know this, I know this. But start with asking them questions and then figure out what pieces of knowledge you know that's going to benefit them. So things like for a seller, what's motivating them to move? Asking them what's most important in their sale. Asking them if in your mind, what's most important in a real estate agent? What would you be most happy with if I did? Like, what would make you the most happy? Do you like communication? Do you like text? Do you like email? Finding that. And also asking lots of why questions. Anytime they say something, kind of try to go a level deeper without pushing too hard. But if they tell you, you know, the most important thing in my sale is that I get the most amount of money. Well, why? And they'll tell you, you know, maybe they're having financial distress, maybe they have plans to buy something bigger, or they might tell you, oh, the most important thing is that I just get it sold and off my hands. Okay, well, why? So just always asking, going deeper, asking why, not just taking their questions for surface level. Same with buyers. I think a lot of buyers, how do I word this? I have a lot of buyers that get very fixed on price or not wanting to overpay and finding out why. Just always asking why. Because you might uncover and you might be able to, you know, kind of take away their limiting beliefs or open their mind to something different. And it's also going to help you understand them better. Does anyone else have any like great specific questions that they ask their buyers and sellers that give them a lot of context in helping them? There is a tool called LP Mama. If you just Google it, it stands for like, I don't know, location, price, motivation. It stands for a specific number of questions to ask in your intake calls with your initial phone calls with buyers and sellers. And I know in the beginning, I always had that in front of me to make sure I hit all of those questions and got as much information from them. I can email that out after to everyone who attended as well, so that you know what I'm talking about, because I don't have it in front of me to be able to recall it. Any other questions?
I just had a thought. Um, I've been selling stuff for many, many years, and important, especially in a buying, selling emotional state. We want to ask some fact-finding questions, which will tend to be shorter answers. But if you ask feeling-finding questions, it may be a good way to open people up.
Yep, I agree. And I feel like that gets to the why, kind of when you keep asking why, then it kind of breaks down. Like there's usually an emotional factor behind what they're saying. And it's really,
and it's hard and it's hard to disguise those emotional factors once you get people talking.
I agree. And it's only going to help you be a better agent. I'll tell you that a big learning lesson I had actually fairly recently was not asking the right questions up front, and then at a listing appointment was suggesting what the seller should do to prep their home for sale and not realizing their financial inability to do it. Which ended up in kind of a lot of like emotional type tension at the end of the conversation, when I should have asked up front kind of learned about their situation more before I started overwhelming them with, what they should do to their house, because they were pretty much not only in a financial state where they really couldn't do much, but mentally they really couldn't do much. And so we really have to meet people where they're at and what they're doing. All right. Anything else anyone wants to add? All right. So, listening to individuals. So taking a grassroots approach. So not always like reading the headlines, but asking your friends, family, peers, potential buyers and sellers questions about the market. Where are they hearing this information? And always just listening, not just shouting out what you know, but trying to understand what their perspective is so that you can figure out, is that the reality or do we need to educate them more? Sorry, I just need my drink really quick. Where do you guys feel like your sphere gets their information on the housing market most?
TikTok.
That's where I get most of my information. It's sad to say. But I would say yes, a lot of it comes from the news as well. And where am I? I think there's been a ton of headlines recently, kind of like what I said before, like the national news isn't what is always happening in our market. So kind of understanding, are they getting it from TikTok? If they are, I guess there's a chance it would be more location specific. If they're getting it from the news, it might be more national specific, where we really have to explain what's actually happening in our market. Or are they getting it from other friends and family who are buying houses? Or are they getting it from their parents who bought a house 35 years ago, and things have changed dramatically? So understanding where their information is coming from and what their influences are, so that you can better meet them where they are and educate them on where they need to be in order to buy and sell. This kind of goes into keeping the headlines in context, and reading past the headlines. So us as agents, I mean, we know the media, like the goal is that someone opens the article and reads it, right? So the headlines are not always super accurate. I would say especially the last year, there's been a lot of real estate in the news. Some headlines that I wrote down are, well, this was maybe more so a year or two ago, but the bidding wars and almost like creating that frenzy about the craziness of the housing market, which wasn't inaccurate, but it was all over the news. This past year, the NAR settlement, that's obviously a big one. I found that some people didn't even hear about it, and other people would be like, yay, we don't have to pay buyer's agents anymore. And really being able to explain like, hey, it's kind of always been that way. And to kind of sift through what's actually happening. There's also been, I've seen national news about the housing market declining. And so for people around here, that causes some confusion because that's not what's happening in our market. I always hear about people like looking for foreclosures and looking for this, and it's just not really happening in our market as much as it started to happen in other markets. Another big one that I've seen on the news recently is property tax evaluations. So a lot of towns, at least on the seacoast, pretty much doubled their home valuations to bring them up to market value, which is a product of how much really the market has grown in the last 5 or 6 years. And a lot of panic over taxes. So being able to identify that that is in the local headlines and being able to speak to it. Just because someone's evaluation went up doesn't mean their taxes are going to double, right? Because there's a town budget that's involved. But so I guess just knowing what are those headlines that are out there and what do they really mean and how does it apply for what we do every day? Are there any other headlines that you guys hear people talk about that you've been trying to overcome, or you already know how to overcome it? It comes up often for you? No? Okay. Let's see. Any ahas from anything that I went over?
So when you were talking about meeting with lenders and kind of taking every single coffee appointment, that's definitely something that I'm going to take to heart. As soon as we get off this call, I'm probably going to email a bunch of the in-house lenders and see if I can get some appointments with them.
Yes, title companies too. That's actually how I got connected with one of my favorite lenders now. I've only been working with him for like a year and a half. And it came out of me meeting with someone from a title company I hadn't used. And she said, "Oh, I think you guys would get along. I think you have a similar style." And she connected with us. So not only lenders, like title companies, local insurance companies, we're in the business of connecting people. And like I said, just finding like your people, because there are so many good lenders that I've worked with that they're not bad. It's just we have a different working style. And so I know in order to have the best results for my buyers, I need someone that has a similar working style and that we complement each other. And we're going to be more of like a partnership versus like, oh, we just went under contract, let's contact your lender now, right? Like I have them involved every step of the way to make sure we're making the best decisions possible. Anything else?
So, lenders, title companies, local insurance, any other tips for people to contact?
I mean, you could go really far into this in terms of creating yourself a vendor list.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to start, if we're focusing on like how to connect with people and really understand buyers and sellers, I'd start there. But a vendor list is really important, like especially when we're talking, for me right now, sellers. Like I have a great cleaning company that I'm always like, hey, we got to get your house clean before it lists, and having that person. And I guess that vendor list for like painters, cleaners, roofers is maybe less about knowing your market and more about like how helpful can you be. And like once someone closes, you're going to have questions. Before someone lists, they're going to need something. And that's just like building that expertise and saying, oh, I know someone and I've tested them out and they do a great job. So you could go really far with who to reach out to, but I would start with the basics of like lender, title company, insurance, because that's really who you're involved with in the transaction. And then vendors to help with the house after the fact. I would take that as like a phase 2, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you go on our Keller Williams Facebook page, people are always asking for recommendations of like junk removal companies, or like I said, house cleaners, painters, attorneys. Just kind of search what you're looking for and you'll find threads of our agents recommending people. And that's usually my first go-to if I don't personally know someone, because I know someone in our office has used them and had a good experience with them. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be posting it. Anything else? Utilizing the apps. So this is something that will help you connect to your market. We do have a KW, there's a command app, and I believe there's an app for the user as well. So highly recommend getting that. It's kind of like an all-in-one where you can see you know, what your clients are searching for, what's interesting them, and it helps you stay in touch with them. I assume everyone is familiar with Command, or that Command is a thing at this point. If you haven't kind of dove into it yet, I would. There's a lot of great tools in terms of like growing your database, email marketing, regular marketing, just using it as a CRM to stay in touch with people, sending neighborhood reports. There's so much that it offers. It's a great way to dive in and stay connected with your market and look like an expert just because of some of the features that it has. And this is just telling you how to get the KW app if you don't have it. So this next part is establishing your business on social media. So this goes into, I would say, both connecting with your market and showing yourself as an expert. So part of your success systems involves social media and other enrichments. The suggestion to like 10 posts a day, 5 comments a day, and 1 direct message a day. This is a very easy and free way to stay front of mind for people. Liking 10 posts a day, that's probably the easiest. 5 comments a day, I would say your comments aren't just like, good job, but have them be thoughtful. Have them show that, oh, you actually paid attention to what they were doing and have a thought about it. Something that someone is going to read and maybe even get them to respond to would be even better. And 1 direct message a day, that could just be checking in on someone, or I would say an easier way to go about it is whose birthday is it that day. And maybe you write on their you know, Facebook page or their Instagram page or whatever platform you use. But maybe you also send them a direct message and try to make a little bit of a stronger connection with them. Does anyone feel like they're doing a really good job with this on social media at the moment and have any tips or tricks to it? No. Okay. I would say I want to add a little bit to this, because when you say like 10 posts a day, I think it's important to engage with your network and your database of people you already know. Like I know I've had Facebook since I was in 8th grade. So I have like 1,000 friends that I don't even know many of them anymore. So it kind of helps reconnect with maybe people you haven't spoken to in a while, or remind them like, hey, you're still there, and they might be like, oh, I wonder what Amanda's up to now. I haven't talked to her in a while. But also liking and engaging with posts of like local businesses, specifically on Instagram. I know sometimes I will share posts from, like if I'm at a local restaurant, I'll tag them, and sometimes they'll reshare my post. And that just gets your name out to other people that might be like, oh, what is that? Who is that? So engaging with content that not is only with your specific database and sphere, but that is within your market. So I would take both approaches to social media. Does that make sense? Okay. And this doesn't even go into posting, because that's a whole nother topic. But I think if you're at least engaging with people, letting them know you're there, and engaging with new content, new local content, that is, I guess, the first step in at least starting a social media plan. Okay, so other enrichments, other things to kind of make you that expert and get immersed in your market. Studying your market center report. I think that goes for like studying this report that I said, like the New Hampshire Monthly Indicator reports, looking through RPR and looking at different neighborhoods. Previewing homes is huge. We have been in a market where we haven't had like broker open houses or really opportunities to even see other listings because they've been flying off the market. And that is slowly shifting. So I would say if you can preview homes or go to broker opens, go to as many as you can. Learn what the price is for it, maybe why it was priced that way, what did it actually sell for. The more homes you can get into, the better, even if you go to open houses on the weekends and you don't have a client with you, just go in and tour it. That way you can say you've been in it, you'll be able to compare it to the next house that comes on the market. That's huge. That's the best way to learn your inventory, is just like boots on the ground and to know how it compares to everything. Take an MLS course. So I know that our MLS has so many functions in terms of its reporting tools, its collaboration center that they just revamped. And they have lots of tools that you can learn through them. They also offer a lot of free resources, like on the very first page before you enter into the actual MLS, there's tons of different resources that you can click into and tools to utilize. Visit and hold open houses. So kind of like the preview homes, but the hold open houses. I know that's one thing that they're always, management when you first start will say, post on Facebook and see if anyone needs you to host an open house. That is going to be key to, one, learning the inventory, but two, learning how do buyers behave? What do they ask, right? What do I need to know? What do buyers ask? Because a lot of this, as prepared as you think you are, like you kind of learn by doing and by being in front of people and not always saying the right thing. I still don't say the right thing half the time, but just getting yourself out there is key. Studying the language of real estate. So understanding, all of your terms, what's important to you. There's books on this. Definitely look at that. Read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So obviously that is a book that has been put together and has been a model that has been successful for tons of people. I did it on Audible just in my car. Not on here. So that podcast, The Knowledge Brokers that I recommended, throw that on your list so that when we're always driving in our car, just listen to it. You might learn something about what's happening economically that you can relay to our market. What else? What else do you guys think you can do to engage in our market and learn the market better? Well, one of them, networking with other agents, networking with lenders, not only learning about who they are, but learning about what they're seeing in their business. Like, hey, what has your last month been like? How does it compare to what you've seen before? Asking questions like that. I would say just like getting yourself out there. Like I've made a commitment to work from a new coffee shop once a week, like a totally new one that I haven't been to, so I can learn what's out there and see new people and learn the areas better. All right. So quick recap, knowing your market. So knowing your type of market, your inventory, interest rates, economic factors, and market factors. Knowing how everything moves together and why things are happening, so that you can predict how it's going to play out in the next couple months. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, but you can follow trends and have an idea of what's happening. And then building your expertise. So learning the market, learning your clientele, what motivates them, what's important to them, how can you adapt so that you are helping them in the best way possible. Listen to individuals and keeping the headlines in context. All right. Does anyone have any ahas? Like, how has your thinking changed? Any new ideas, mindset shifts, anything that they want to share?
I think I'm noticing that I definitely need to get on the MLS every single day, look at the numbers, really trying to compartmentalize as much of the data as I can. But consistency, doing it every single day, I think is really important.
Yep. You'll notice trends. You'll see like, oh my gosh, we had X number of new listings come up today, but only 2 yesterday. And you'll start to notice trends and you want to see like how things are priced and I think that's a very good thing to be doing. I mean, this data is great, right? But throwing out a number to someone that's not going to be, they're not going to know what it means. So immerse yourself in what's actually happening. Okay, how will your behaviors be different moving forward, and what actions will you take? Anyone else have anything that they'll do kind of daily to connect with their either market or clientele? Or is anyone doing something that we didn't go over that you want to share? No? What are we doing right now to connect with buyers? Okay. I know for me, social media is big at the moment because I am not the type to cold call, so I'm finding my own way of how to connect with people and how to meet new people. So engaging, like I said, with content that is local in nature, engaging with people that maybe I would have just kind of scrolled past before, and starting to have more conversations is something that I am doing. Also that, like, I keep referring to that podcast, but it's because I like it so much. I am really making an effort, instead of just, I think for a lot of years, I was just going, and oh, the market's so crazy, the market's so crazy. But hey, our market is shifting. And for you new agents, this is kind of all you know. But for some people who've been in it a little bit longer, I think there's just even more of a reason to pay attention to what's happening right now, because it is shifting. So I guess that's my, let's see if there's anything else, but that's my words of advice. Success system. So a daily success system. Have 10 conversations. 10 contacts added to your database. 10 handwritten notes. I love handwritten notes. I've actually had a lot of success with handwritten notes, but this goes back to knowing your clientele and who are you writing this handwritten note to? Like, are you writing it to a first-time home buyer? That type of person probably doesn't appreciate handwritten notes as much as other types of buyers or sellers. But I love handwritten notes, or even just handwritten birthday cards. Find something that you would be communicating with people anyway and do notes. If you meet with a lender, send them a handwritten note after and say, thanks so much for meeting with me. Like, strengthen that connection that you have with them. 10-5-1 social media engagement. I feel like we went over that a lot. Enrichments. And then this all leads to appointments, agreements, and closings. So we need to be, one thing that's always stuck with me is don't be a secret agent. I'm a very introverted person and don't love putting myself out there. So doing things like this, and for me, being able to understand the market and understand what's happening has allowed me to feel more comfortable in speaking with people. Even if it doesn't come up, I know that if it does, I'm confident in what I'm saying. So it goes hand in hand for me. Good old warning about the do not call list. Do not call people who do not want to be called. You will be fined, or you could be fined. Not that you will, you could be fined. So really try to stick with people that, I mean, some people have a ton of success with cold calling, but I feel like if you stick with, you know, people coming into open houses, people that are approaching you, people that you are in your database, and just getting those warm connections going, that you'll be very successful. Get help if you don't know how to use some of our systems. Get help. There's this website, so answers at kw.kw.com, but we also have a tech trainer. I think he's still available, KT Temple, who is amazing and available, and he will help you through using command and implementing it in your business in a way that makes sense for you, helps you connect with people, and helps you share your knowledge. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in a relationship with me. I like this kind of as an affirmation to help build your confidence. So if you're about to cold call people, engage with people, I think this is a really good thing to say to yourself. It's very positive. It won't give you that mindset of, oh, they probably don't want to hear from me, right? Like, no, they might. People always want to know what's in the real estate market, and you will have that knowledge to be able to share it with them. And celebrate your successes. This is a numbers game. You will get a lot of no's before you get a yes. And mindset is everything, and it's very easy. It can be very easy to get discouraged. So make sure you're celebrating when you do. Celebrate your little wins and celebrate your big wins. Your next session is define your value. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And I think that's it. So I kind of flew through things because I only took an hour. Do you guys have anything that you want to ask me or you want me to go over again? I really want to pull up those two tools, but I don't know if I can figure it out on this computer. Can you guys actually, I think I'll get everyone's emails after this. I'll email out my lender recommendations. I'll give you the links to the resources of where you can find good market data, and I'll give you a link to the podcast that I love to listen to. And other than that, if you guys don't have any questions, then I think we can be done.
I have one more question. Sorry.
That's okay.
You'd mentioned how you kind of use social media. I just created all my business profiles for all the different platforms. Do you have any recommendations for local people or local groups that I should be following so I can get more engaged?
So always follow the like buy nothing, sell nothing groups, or like the local town groups. So where are you located?
I live in Newmarket and primarily I'm out of the Portsmouth office.
Okay, so there's actually a buy nothing Newmarket / Newfields. Because you just have people posting and you know, you might be able to offer up help with something that they need, and you might be able to engage in a conversation that way. What else? I'm trying to think who else I follow. I know there's like a Stratum, I'm in Stratum, so there's like a Stratum Talks page, there's an Exeter Talks. I'm in Raymond because there's a property there. It's like Raymond Squawks. It just gets, in one sense, you get to know the town and the people a little bit by what they're posting, but two, you never know. A lot of people look for recommendations like, I need a plumber, I need this person. And if you can constantly be that resource for them, like I have 2 little boys and I'm in a New Hampshire Seacoast moms group. Because that's like, those are my people, it's my clientele, that's where I feel like I can give the most contribution. So I'd say think about what your life is and what you know outside of real estate and find those local groups to connect with. Anything else? You have great questions. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for all the information. I've been looking forward to this session because kind of trying to be an expert of my market was something I guess it was one of my limiting factors. You know, I kept telling myself, hey, I can't really start engaging in business until I know the business that I'm engaging in. So I think this has given me a pretty good jumping off point. I definitely have a list of things I need to be doing. One thing again with the social media is kind of like yourself, I feel like I'm an introvert, and sometimes I get overwhelmed with social media and all the different ways that you can engage with it. Do you think that there is a platform or a method of engagement on social media that is the most beneficial to start with? You know, small actions for big gains?
I think just starting with actually what this session said, like if you can get comfortable, actually, and I have to pull it back up because I don't remember the exact numbers. Oh, I guess I could just go backwards so we can all see it. Where is it? So if you can get comfortable just like doing these, this is like 3 actions that can be done in 20 minutes. If you can get comfortable by starting here and just engaging, then that's a good jumping off point. You're welcome to look at my social media. I won't say that I'm an expert and I'm getting a ton of leads from it, but I know I'm, sprinkling in personal life with real estate life and really trying to get people to know what I do every day without being so much maybe in their face. And I really work on trying to engage with content as much as I can. But I would start with this. I think that this is very, very good advice. And it's easy.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And you said you're gonna get our emails, so you have our emails. You don't need us to provide them, or
I think so. I mean, throw it in the chat maybe. I don't have a pen with me. I think I should have it. I'm just gonna take your names down and I'll make sure I can look it up. Yeah, I'll be able to find it if it's not given to me after, and I can send just some resources that I like in my business. It may or may not resonate with you guys, but at least it's this. There's so many ways you can go with real estate. You just need to find what pieces resonate and work for you. So that's my best advice.
okay, thank you
Alright.
so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank
You as well.
you.
Happy Friday. Happy weekend.
Have a
Happy
good
weekend.
one.